Oh, maybe it's starting soon. Oh, there she is. I'm gonna turn it on.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear.
Did it start already?
So
Yeah,
forgive
you
me
just all you
for
missed
not
was
believing much of
she's a mom of
anything
3 children.
I heard tonight
Okay.
from President Biden. From out of control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China. Biden and the Democrats have failed you. They know it, and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control.
He doesn't have
That's not
any
who we
charisma.
are.
Oh God.
America is the greatest
Yeah.
country the world has ever known because we're the freest country the world has ever known, with a people who are strong and resilient. 5 months ago, I was diagnosed
He's like the
with
female Marco
cancer.
Rubio.
It was a hard time for our family, particularly our kids,
It's like
Charlotte
robotic.
and George. But we kept our faith
Well, she's got to be
and persevered. Thanks to exceptional doctors
acceptable
here in
to everybody.
Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God, I am cancer-free. Through it all, I couldn't help but think about my mom. She was 20 years old and in her first year of marriage when she was diagnosed with spinal cancer. The doctors told her she might not live, and if she did live, they said she'd never walk again. And if she did walk, she'd definitely never have children. The daughter she was told she'd never have was just sworn in
How much did she have to
as
pay
the
for
new
that?
governor of Arkansas and is speaking to you tonight.
Not much more than a
Adversity
copay.
and fear of the unknown can paralyze us, but faith propels us to charge boldly ahead.
This is a
We
mistake.
can't stand still in the face of great challenges.
What, Faith?
You and I were put on this earth for
Her
such a time
and
as this.
the thing she's talking about.
Charge boldly ahead. I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom, he's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history.
Except for the last one.
I'm the first woman to lead my state. And he's
No, the last
first
one's 74 or
man to
whatever.
I know,
surrender
so he's
his
only older
presidency
than
to a woke
one of
mob
them.
that can't even tell you what a woman is.
No, he's older than
He
all
is
of
the
them.
oldest in history.
He's the oldest in
Yeah.
history,
Radical
yes.
America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to love one another or our great country. Whether Joe Biden believes this madness or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left.
Not real.
The dividing
I am
line
the
in
radical
America
left. He's
is
not far
no
enough left for
longer
me.
between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy. It's time for a new generation
Normal.
of Republican leadership.
This shit was written
Taking
before
office
the
just a few
actual
weeks ago,
State of the Union.
I signed
Yes.
executive orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools. Eliminate the use of derogatory term Latinx in our government.
Yeah, did you hear about that?
Repealed COVID orders and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders. But in Washington,
None of this
Biden's
pertains.
administration
No,
is
it
doubling
doesn't.
It's not a
down
rebuttal.
on crazy.
No, it's
This
not.
is it.
President
The
Biden
worst mistake I've
inherited
ever seen.
the fastest economic recovery on record. The most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy, fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace.
Yeah, you got 3 out of
Christ.
6 there.
None of that was real.
Democrats
I don't think any of it was.
destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history.
They say that every
As a
single
mom,
time.
my heart
It's
every
progressively
parent
worse, so
who has
I'll
lost
say
a
true.
son or daughter to addiction. 100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses. largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border. Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives. And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear. Beyond our border, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran, President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world at risk. And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary, is dangerous and unacceptable. President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people. He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief.
She's talking about the balloon too.
And while you reap the consequences of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day. Most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace. But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war we didn't start and never
Oh,
will
lying
fight.
bitch.
Every day we are
Jesus.
told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols. All while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech.
She
It's not normal.
stops people from using the word
Crazy.
Latinx.
And it's
You
wrong.
can't use it
Make no mistake.
In public schools?
Republicans will
in
not
the government and in
surrender
public
this
schools.
fight.
Yeah, you can't use it.
We will lead
She's
with
stopping you
courage
from saying it.
and do what's right.
No,
not
she isn't.
politically
Yes, she
correct
is.
or convenient.
You're being silly.
Republicans believe
She
in an
passed that
America
law.
where
She
strong
bragged about it.
families thrive in safe
Go to Arkansas and say Latinx
where
and see
jobs
if
are abundant and paychecks are rising,
anything happens to you.
where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child.
Still,
These
terrible
are the
fucking speech.
principles Republican governors are fighting for, and in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration accountable.
No, you won't.
Down the street from where I sit is my alma mater, Little Rock Central High. As a
Don't care.
student there, I will never forget watching my dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, and
Dipshit.
President Bill Clinton hold the doors open
Rapist.
to the Little Rock Nine. Doors that 40 years earlier had been closed to them because they were black. Today, those children once barred from the schoolhouse are now heroes memorialized in bronze at our state house.
And if they're Republican, they're going to keep trans kids from coming in.
Progress our country has made. And I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day. Tomorrow, I will unveil an education package that will be the most far-reaching,
Oh, God.
bold, conservative education reform in the
Conservative
country.
education reform.
My plan empowers parents with real
Well, we have something to talk
choices,
about this Sunday.
improves literacy and
Or
political
Saturday.
readiness,
Yeah.
and helps put a good teacher in every classroom by increasing their starting salary from one of the lowest to one of the highest in the nation. Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty.
School choice.
We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, and put students on a path to success.
Come on, you gotta at least praise the raising teachers' salaries.
I do like
This
that.
is our moment.
But it'll
Why
make...
didn't you say so?
This is our
Oh, okay, sorry.
opportunity.
I wrote it
A new
down.
generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts, forged by the triumph of the Cold War and the tragedy of 9/11. A generation brimming
What
with
the fuck?
Not a
passion
Republican
and
speech
new
without mentioning
ideas
9/11.
to solve age-old problems. A generation moored to our deepest values and oldest traditions, yet unafraid to challenge the present order and find a better way forward. If we seize this moment together, America can once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Oh my God.
During my 2.5 years at the White House, I traveled on every foreign trip with the president. A trip I will never forget was on December 25th of 2018. My husband Brian and I had just cleaned up wrapping paper that was shoved into every corner of our house, thanks to our 3 kids. When I had to walk out on my own family's Christmas, unable to tell them where I was
This isn't
going,
a rebuttal. This is the State of the Union, but the Republican version.
they didn't
This
want
is
anybody to know
like,
that the president was going to be on
this
the
isn't,
ground
hey, Biden said he was going to do this,
hours.
except for the fact that he did X, Y, Z. No,
We boarded Air Force One.
this is,
in
I'm going to tell my
complete
American Patriot story.
There were no lights.
I fucking hate it.
We
no
did
lights
Christmas.
on the runway.
Take that, liberals.
Our
We
phones
put
and
lights on the
computers
runway.
Shut down and turned in. We were going completely off the grid.
What for?
Nearly 12 hours later, in the pitch black of night, we landed in the war-torn part of western Iraq. It was again a similar scene. No lights on the plane, no lights
What's
on
her
the
point?
runway.
You went
The only
dark.
thing you could see was coming from about a mile away. In a dining hall were hundreds of troops who were in the fight against ISIS.
Oh, I
Gathered
remember this.
expecting to celebrate Christmas with senior military leadership from around the region. They had absolutely no idea that the president and first lady were about to walk into that room. And when they did, it was a sight and a scene and a sound
To behold.
I never forget.
Oh, damn.
Room
Thought I was predicting words.
Men and women from every race, religion, and region, every political party, every demographic you can imagine, started chanting in perfect unison over and over and over again, USA, USA, USA. It was an absolutely perfect picture of what makes our country great. One of the young soldiers yelled from the back, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the president said, "And son, I'm here because of you." Shortly after, that young soldier
Worst
came up to
idea.
me.
Worst reason to re-enlist
He
ever.
said, "Sarah, you have a tough job." I told him, "What I do is nothing. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job." And in a moment
What I
that
do is
knew I'll
nothing?
cherish for the rest of my life,
Same for most politicians. Good
the
job.
soldier reached up and he pulled
Yeah, she was
blue
the
rifle's patch he wore on
Press
his shoulder,
secretary or something like that.
and he placed it into my hand, a sign of ultimate
One of many.
respect. And he said, "Sarah, we are in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless, I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free. That young man and everyone who has served before him, all of those who serve alongside him, and the thousands we know who will be called upon to serve after him, deserve to know they have a country and a community back home doing our part in the fight for freedom. America is great because we are free. But today, our freedom is under attack, and the America we love is in danger. President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders are stepping up, not to be caretakers of the status quo, but to be change makers for the American people. We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands. And with God as our witness, we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
Unless you want to say Latinx in a classroom.
And
You don't
Sarah Huckabee
have the freedom to
Sanders,
say
the new
that.
governor of Arkansas.
And that's the only point I'm trying to make. I know that you're still allowed to like say it when you're walking down the street or in your home, but if the government says government workers aren't to use this and schools aren't to use this word, then that's not a freedom of speech. That is a severe limitation.
I mean, look, the government determines the speech of government workers. Yes. That's how it is at every level. Okay?
What
A
other
federal worker
what
that says
words do they say you
something that
can't
is,
use?
do you want a list?
Well, I know there are things that will get you in trouble,
That
but
will likely get you fired or demoted at the very least in the federal government.
okay.
And I'm sure that there are some that I'll say justifiably can can do that
Uh,
very easily.
uh, but this word right here, I'm looking at the dictionary definition for it.
Here's a screwdriver back.
Thank you. A person of Latin
Can't do
American
without that
origin
screwdriver.
or descendant used as a gender neutral, non-binary alternative to Latino or Latina. This is their problem with it. You can't use this word because it's connected to gender neutral or non-binary. And she, as the governor, has used her position to say, my government and my workers will not use this because it's gender neutral and non-binary. It's connected to trans people. Therefore, she does not like it. And so she used her government power to get rid of it. This isn't a slur word. This isn't the N word. This isn't something that someone is using to harm people. But she doesn't like it. And the Republicans don't like it. So they got rid of it. Because Republicans are anti-freedom.
I don't like it because it's stupid.
Well, I don't
Take
get
the
to
sentence
choose whether or
below.
not it's stupid.
Take the sentence below, the quotes on
Mm-hmm.
that same definition, or the definition below it.
Mm-hmm.
A person of Latin American origin or descent,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
She started a mentorship program to address the underrepresentation of Latinxes within the company.
Uh-huh.
How about this is novel and uncharted waters here.
How about
She started a mentorship program to address the underrepresentation of Latin Americans within the company.
there aren't any Latin Americans in England? This is, uh, I mean, similar
A
to
Latinx
African.
is specifically, according to that definition, a person of Latin American origin or descent.
Right. But what if they were born in England? They're not Latin. They're not
And they're English.
American. I know. Well, I mean, there aren't any African Americans in England. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm getting at? There are black people in England, but there aren't African Americans in England. This is just a use of a language that I don't find offensive or problematic. If the community of people don't like that word, then let's get rid of it. If they think this is a bad word, this is not okay. It happens with the word retarded a lot. Some people use it a lot. It gets used a lot. The word back in the 90s when
Guilty.
gay was everything that don't that's so gay, and we meant it as a pejorative. If those people say, hey, please stop doing that, that's not good, you're harming us, then I would stop doing it. But the governor of Arkansas says you can't use that word? No. Fuck her. She's being anti-First Amendment by doing so. And
My argument on the First Amendment
Mhm.
is not whether the word itself is good or bad. It's a matter of government workers have to abide by certain rules. And if the rule is that you can't say Latinx, then you can't say Latinx. Sorry. But it's not, but that's the same as any other
she's
word that gets banned in the course of government work.
no, they get
Now, you
banned
can
because they're
disagree
harmful.
with,
They get banned because they're harmful and they're hateful. This one isn't harmful and hateful, except to except I'm telling you, I'm telling you what she's thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think she just doesn't like gender neutral and non-binary. The Republican Party is constantly thinking about trans people. It's in their brain all day long. They can't stop thinking about it. And they found this word, and they said, no, we ain't going to do it. And instead of
See,
just saying, hey, we
you
don't
and
like
I
it.
don't have the same separation in our brains then, because
Hmm.
for me, I just won't say any word that, like, I'm told to not say in the course of doing my job,
I dig that.
right?
And I
So
understand
if
the
they say
idea.
don't say Latinx, then I just
Great.
won't.
Then you won't say it.
That's it.
That's
If you're a
fine.
government worker, that's what's expected of you.
Okay. What is the First Amendment supposed to protect our freedom of speech from? The government.
Okay,
This
but
woman
when
is the
you are part
governor.
of the government, that's a little bit different.
When you're part of the government, that's a little bit different. Uh, she has authority over the government. If she had authority over more of the government, she would push this to more of the government. And then she would push more uh, anti-free speech legislation.
If she pushed a law that said that corporations are not allowed to use the word Latinx in their discourse,
She would if she
daily
could get
discourse,
away with it. If she
but
could
she
get it
can't.
passed, she would. If she could,
But she
she would.
can't
Because
because that is where free speech comes into play.
so if she pushes it to
If you're a government worker, whatever the government says you can or cannot say is what you can or cannot say. You give
and
up certain rights by being a government worker. It's just how it is.
and I recognize the idea. I appreciate that. There are certain things we don't want them to do. And I think that the things we don't want them to do are harmful or derogatory. But this isn't harmful and derogatory. This is the, I don't know, how is this? I was about to compare this to Jordan Peterson because he threw a fit because the government told him he had to use gender pronouns for people. And he threw a fit and got famous by saying he
But he
wasn't
wasn't
going to
working
do
for the
it.
government though
I
of
know,
Canada.
but the government was passing a law.
So they were passing a law about the speech of private individuals.
They were passing a law about non. Uh, they were passing a discrimination law. They were updating their discrimination laws, which exist. They exist within America as well, discrimination laws, and it included uh, the chosen pronouns of the people. And if you, as a class of discrimination, but I'm thinking if this compares to that as like the exact opposite. He was throwing a fit because he wasn't going to be compelled to say certain words. But this is a government saying that its workers can't say these words. So it's not quite compelled speech. It seems like a pointless restriction. Is there a purpose to it? Is there some sort of benefit that our government has now that those workers can't say this word?
Oh,
Uh, Then why is she doing it? She's taking away the freedom of people for no benefit.
oh yeah.
At at
Well, hold on.
best,
Let me
that's what
go.
she's
Let me.
doing.
All
At
right.
best.
So let's go. Let me go a step further then.
Sure.
Um, it's not the fact that this is a thing that is the problem.
Hmm.
The problem that you have is the motivation for it, right?
Well,
It's
I like freedom, and I see her as taking it away. Like
I don't
literally.
view government workers as having freedom because government workers operate under a different set of rules in the nature of being government workers.
Okay.
So I will say that her motivations are wrong,
Okay.
and those motivations have influenced the decision to ban the word Latinx for government workers.
Hmm.
But government workers themselves are compelled to follow the rules
Mm-hmm.
that exist for what they can and cannot say. So I have a separation there. Does that make
Sure,
sense?
I can see that, and I recognize that you give up certain. Uh, Everybody gives up something uh, in exchange for other things. I mean, you give up your time for a paycheck. You give up your effort and your labor to a company who then pays you for that. That's fine. If you give up some autonomy and some freedoms that you have uh, to work for the military or the government, obviously. And what I would hope is that the people in charge of that recognize that and respect it. I don't think she's doing this to make her government better. I think she's doing it specifically for discriminatory purposes. I think she's actually discriminating. She's actually doing something that, uh, because she doesn't like gender neutral people or non binary people, she does not want to give them respect or decency. But, again, I've heard that Hispanic people don't actually like it. So now there's just now, and it's mostly a
Well,
Twitter thing. It's mostly a Twitter thing. I've never
let
used the word
well,
before now. You've never used the word before now. But because she's on Twitter, and Twitter has such a stranglehold on every political person and every news reporter in the world, and every social media thing in the world, it becomes a big deal.
well. See, here's the thing, though, is that I have used the term before,
Okay.
and that was before I realized that I could substitute just using the word Latin
Hmm. I think
without the X.
I think that sounds fine too.
Now, I think the motivations are. I'll agree with you that her motivations are wrong because she's an idiot.
Do you think she's
Um,
doing it to as a slight towards trans people or non-binary
Probably,
people
yeah.
or gender neutral people?
I disagree with the idea that it's an affront to free speech. That's where
Okay.
my primary
Okay.
disagreement with you comes from.
Okay. That's fine.
Um, because of my separation between free speech and government speech.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean Latin is just fine, right?
I think so too, and I think that if that were
So
the term there, she wouldn't have banned it. So yeah, there's. I guess that's the question, isn't it? If she, I mean, we can't know what could have or would have happened, but so it might not be worth going down. But if she is okay with Latino and Latina, but she is against the X. I mean, I think it
what
proves that
if?
she's doing.
Well, I feel like I think in terms of the syntax,
Mhm.
my argument is that I find the X unnecessary because I proposed Latin American or Latin as the alternatives to Latinx.
Mhm. State documents. Okay. Maybe it's not schools.
And in state documents, Latinx doesn't make any sense because in that case, you definitely can respect can say Latin or any of those Hispanic, etc. Latin American.
Okay.
So if people even see or even use it, 23% of Latino adults in the U.S. have heard of the term, and of that, only 3% use it.
I know.
Nobody fucking
That's
says it.
that's
Who
fine. I
cares?
don't.
It's a
It's a right wing person telling me what I can and can't say. That's why it bothers me. The idea. I know it is just a small, tiny 3%, very unusual idea. It's very tiny right now. It's only in Arkansas. But the government suggesting what is okay and what's not okay to say is, in their documents, is a it's that first drop in the bucket. It's the lightning rod, maybe. It's the I'm getting my metaphors all mixed up here. It's the first shot across the bow. You know.
I think it's just stupid.
Sure, they came for the stupid, and we said nothing because we weren't stupid.
And they came for the smart, and we said everything because we're smart.
But it was too
It
late.
doesn't make
They
no.
came and got us anyway. There's nobody left for us. They came for us because we're smart, and there was nobody left to stand up for us. That's how the thing goes. That's the thing I'm worried. I am probably overreacting. Feel free to tell me that I'm overreacting.
I'll refrain for now because
Okay.
I do think that the policy itself, I mean, it's stupid. Like, there's
It,
no reason why
which part is stupid?
Latinx, the whole
She should
banning
not.
Latinx
Okay.
thing.
She should
Like,
not have done it because it
why would you do
doesn't
it?
help. Okay.
Well, because it's a political stunt. Does it make sense? No. Does it actually do anything to help your constituents? No. It's a it's a political move. It's
It's
something to
a
drum up support. It's stupid,
virtue signal.
and it's yeah, it's a right wing virtue signal,
Okay.
and it's dumb. If it was me,
Hmm.
um, oh god, I'm about to be labeled as dangerous.
Okay.
Um, if it was me, then I would start making fun of people for saying Latinx instead of Latin or American Latin or Hispanic,
Hmm.
and make it so that people that say Latinx are a joke. And yeah, I would definitely change things in public documents to not use Latinx, and I would say Hispanic or something along those lines. But uh, if I really wanted to get rid of that terminology, then it would just be if you say Latinx, you're just dumb because we have so many other words to do
Okay.
or
And
to use. I'd never ban it outright though.
okay. And what was the? Let me see. What else did she say? Uh, a culture war that we didn't start. Fuck that. The right wing absolutely started the culture war. The war on Christmas started on Fox News 20 years ago.
I refuse to have that debate because it's a
I know.
chicken and egg.
Well, no. Okay, you don't have to have the debate, but I'm suggesting that the culture war is entirely produced by the right to get to virtue signal to create more of these style of virtue signals. Um,
I reject your assertion, and that's about it.
that's about it. Okay. Well, um, that was the only thing that really bothered me. Oh, school choice. She brought up school choice too. That seems like a dumb idea.
It's a great idea.
To uh, how is it a great idea?
School choice.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a great idea?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I went to a shit school,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have liked to go to a good school.
Hmm.
And the reason that I couldn't go to the good school was because I was promised, or my parents were promised school choice, and they got fucked out of it because the government sucks balls. And yeah, that's why.
And if school choice means all of the uh, poor people can't leave, either because they don't have that gas money to go to a farther away school, or they don't have uh, or the parents are both working and they don't have time to drive children to a school that is 2 hours away instead of one that's 10 minutes away. That leaves that school high and dry. That leaves that school with only the poor people. It creates a class system. It creates a lower tier and a higher tier class system. And then they would, and then the The school that you choose is the one that your tax money goes to. Now that poor school with very few people in it suffers even more. And then usually school choice is tied to some sort of crazy ass fucking voucher system, so the kids can go to private schools with coupons, which is insane.
Well, my district was actually characterized by public school choice,
Mm-hmm. And
and
okay.
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that the town I grew up in also had one school, literally one. There was no choice. If you wanted another one, you had to drive half an hour to the next town over. A lot of
Well,
the
we
middle
did
of the
have
country is that way, and that isn't going to solve anything for them. In the middle of the country, where they're having in Arkansas, I'm going to suggest that in Arkansas, if they have low test scores and stuff like that, it's because they're not putting money and good teachers in. It's not because the school is failing and you need to go to a different one. That's insane. Make that shitty school better.
well, in terms of school funding, I will say that school funding should not be based on property taxes, which it currently is. Most schools in the country are funded by property taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and that necessarily means that a school that is funded by an area with much higher property prices
Mm-hmm.
is going to have a lot more funding, and I disagree with that policy.
Should be a statewide thing. Every school gets the same amount, depending on the number of people going there.
Yeah, yeah, it should be
That
per
makes more
student.
sense to me as well.
Yeah. Uh, so I'll agree that school funding is not appropriate right now,
Mm-hmm.
because if you have a school that is primarily funded by the low income housing versus a school that's primarily funded by the areas that are very high income, then yeah, you're going to have a disparity in the schools. Whereas if you have it statewide, then you'll have schools that are funded uh, equally across the state, according to the property tax. But I also think the property tax should not be a factor in funding the schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think the schools should come from a state budget and should be distributed roughly evenly according to the number of pupils.
Okay. Um, yeah, generally, what I'm worried about, again, I might be overreacting, but that school choice leads to those bad schools failing more, and then Republican lawmakers saying, "Hey, these terrible schools don't work. We need private schools," and then they own stock in the private school, or they're paid by the private school, or they monetarily uh, benefit from more kids in private schools. And the poorest don't get to go to private schools. And we'll give some of them some vouchers and some coupons. It'll be fine. Maybe they can scrape together enough, but honestly. Um,
I think that private schools popularity comes from the the fact that they are less bound to the state curriculum.
right, because most of them are religious as well.
Right. And that has some to do with it, but I mean, I've got friends that went through private school, um, that yeah, it was religious, except for the fact that a lot of people that went there or that sent their kids there weren't actually religious.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
that.
they send them to private school because there's a better quality of education and
Well, of course there is.
there's a
It's
different
it's funded.
curriculum.
There's because it's funded.
I've also seen my share of people that went to those private schools and then ended up flaming out way worse than a lot of people that I went to public school with. So there's that too. That probably has to do with experiences in the home.
That's going to be the same for everybody, but once you start talking, things change if you're talking individual or at demographic level, numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, bad speech by her. I mean,
I thought it was horrible. Didn't address anything that Biden actually said.
not a
There were
not a
times
rebuttal
where,
like you said. Yeah,
yeah, there were times where she said something that was contrary to what Biden said, but then it was just she said something contrary to it, and then didn't say why.
right. He raised the deficit in the budget, but he said he lowered the deficit in the budget.
Yeah, so how is it
One of
that
them is incorrect.
I would,
And I
if you're going to
honestly
do a
don't know
rebuttal,
which.
right? Exactly. It's like if you're going to do a rebuttal, then pick a few pick a few battlegrounds,
Hmm. A few
and
things he said.
then
Yeah.
yeah, pick a few things, and have you should have a team of like 100 people while the speech is going on that are sitting there watching it and like, no, 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 this is that, this is what, like, here's how he's wrong. 1, 2, 3, and then put together a speech. And she obviously read her whole speech off a teleprompter anyway.
Hmm.
So throw it all together as fast as you can, and then have her read that shit.
Yeah.
And you have a rebuttal. It's great, perfect. But I hated the rebuttal speech. I mean, I think I might have interrupted the rebuttal speech almost as much as I I interrupted the actual State of the Union,
Right. It was so
and
much shorter too.
it was so
Well,
much shorter. Like, uh,
um, okay. Fun times. It was. It's been a few hours now.
yeah,
We did our first live stream to a live thing. Very fun.
that was cool.
Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.